Nothing better to do at 11 o'clock on a Monday morning except leave your hotel and go and play at the children's park. And not only play, actually have a little play on the swings in the local park. And one of them running around like an absolute nutter, screaming. I don't know if you can actually hear that, but now he's behind the thing, but unbelievable. Like I say, nothing better to do on a Monday morning. Come out your hotel and chill at the local park. Here he comes, look. This one, absolute fruitcake, look. Hanging around the children. Look at this. You have to go and get him out of there. Look.
A short video filmed in a quiet neighborhood park on an otherwise uneventful Monday morning is now the latest flashpoint in Britain's ever-simmering immigration debate. The footage, recorded by a local man staying in a nearby hotel, shows a group of young male asylum seekers using a children's play area, swinging, shouting, climbing. Behavior the narrator characterizes as evidence of a fruitcake chaos that supposedly reflects a deeper national crisis. For him, and many who have shared the clip online, the moment is emblematic. While you're working until you die, taxed at every turn, he says. This is where your money is going. In isolation, it is an unremarkable scene. It is an unremarkable scene in an empty park on a Monday morning. But politically, it lands atop a highly combustible pile of grievances. Stretched public services, spiraling hotel costs for asylum accommodation, Keir Starmer's stalled migration pledges, and a public increasingly skeptical of Home Office competence. The language of the video, unvetted fighting-age men, parks built for your children, taps directly into the messaging ecosystem that has defined much of the right-wing political discourse in the past 2 years. It paints a picture of a Britain overrun, abandoned by its leaders, and forced to bankroll the very problem it fears. Yet the broader policy context is more complicated. The Home Office continues to struggle with a backlog exceeding 100,000 cases. Local authorities have repeatedly warned that simply dispersing asylum seekers out of hotels without increasing resources will only shift tensions, not solve them. And while critics frame scenes like this as symbolic of national decline, pro-migration advocates argue the opposite, that the country's political class has deliberately failed to invest in functional systems, preferring headlines to solutions. What the video ultimately reflects is not a single moment in a park, but a fiercely polarized national mood, one in which every mundane interaction becomes a referendum on Britain's borders, identity, and social contract. The clip will circulate, interpretations will harden, and politicians will inevitably exploit it for their own narratives. But the underlying reality remains unchanged. Britain's immigration debate is no longer about numbers, but about meaning, who belongs, who doesn't, and who gets to define the story.
I think it's just absolutely extraordinary. I tweeted last night, as soon as I saw it, that I think it's genuinely abhorrent that Kevin Hollinrake seems to be implying that by having a badge on a shirt...
A football shirt, for fuck's sake.
It just happens to be a gold badge. I mean, I've got gold earrings on. What does that say? Exactly. It is such a stretch to get anywhere near the Nazis. And as we all know, as soon as you invoke the Nazis, you've lost the argument.
You really have. And I had to go and then look up the blimmin' badge, because it meant nothing to me, this badge, for the first time.
No.
I mean, Matthew, you read books about history for years. Did you know anything about this badge?
I didn't know about the badge. I had to do the same as you.
Yeah.
I was surprised. I mean, I did, because politics is the way it is, I laughed last night and just turned Twitter off. I just thought, you know what is he doing? I'm very surprised they've doubled down and not just gone, blame the intern, really sorry, this is, really silly. If this is the route they wish to go, I don't think it ends well. And it's the same. Peter Kyle did it with the Jimmy Savile comments. You allow
Remind us
reform.
what he said.
Well, he said because Nigel Farage was against the Online Safety Act, he would allow people like Jimmy Savile to sort of do whatever he wished. He's in support of that sort of stuff. And I just think you actually allow reform, Nigel Farage, whoever it may be, moral high ground and say this is ridiculous.
It's a gift.
It is.
It is.
It will infuriate people who vote reform.
Not just people who vote reform. I have got friends who are Conservative Party members who've been on a pretty close to, am I going to stay, am I going to go? And this has tipped them over the edge. They are actually leaving the party because tarnishing reform as Nazis is saying that our friends are Nazis, that 33% of the British population are Nazis. It is so clearly wrong in every way.
It seems stupid and ignorant, but do you think it's dangerous? We had Zia Yusuf coming on the programme earlier. He was saying that likening people to Nazis is actually inciting violence against them, or could be perceived to be doing so.
He mentioned Charlie Kirk, and that was clearly a horrific incident. And many people after the event did say that by normalising calling people extremists, dangerous Nazis, comparing them to Hitler, you do make people think it's acceptable to take action against them. And I think there is a risk of that. And it's also just so patently not true that why resort to playground attacks that bear no comparison to reality?
Think, Matthew, if it had been a 23-year-old activist intern who'd had a few beers and thought it was funny, I mean, not acceptable, but put it down to just that. But this man is 62 years old. He's been an MP for a very long time. He's the leader of the Tory party, party machine, party activist. He's not just any old MP.
I think it also makes things very awkward. I get that there is a jostle for centre-right voters from the Conservatives and Reform at the moment. I still think at the moment the most likely outcome of the next election is a hung parliament. And are the Tories going to sort of potentially be the third, fourth party and irrelevant, or are they going to do a deal? They're almost certainly going to do a deal. Well, quiet, so what does that make them? I think it's very silly, very short-sighted and short-termist, really. That's where I'd put it.
He should know better. I'm disappointed in him, actually, because I think in a party which has got very few MPs and very few, he's what I would have called one of the grown-ups.
Well, and it really, as Matthew said, it avoids the big picture. And what we need to do is defeat the left, get us out of this economic hole, sort the country out, sort immigration out. And the right needs to be united in those aims, not fighting in this way, not throwing meaningless